have come to a point where I need to discuss a particular issue leading up to tonight's debate, and it's not because I feel that these two issues are related, or these two issues aren't worth discussing, but we must understand them in proper context. First is the Donald Trump video. The Donald Trump tape of his language used about women. Now, there are a lot of political leaders around the country abandoning the Trump campaign. But here's what I want to express, is we are not electing a pastor. It is not a moral leader, per se, that we are looking at. We are looking at electing an executive. And I dare you to find an executive in secular society that has not made a mistake that could be viewed similar to what Trump has done. Most of them have made that kind of mistake. Now, that being said, why are we looking at Trump and gasping at what he says about women when we have Little Miss Cover-Up, harasser, intimidator on the Democratic side? She may be all sweet in the public eye, but she is a ruthless woman. A ruthless woman who does not know how to properly assert herself in an executive position. So that is a deep concern of mine. That is why I'm not backing off of my Trump support. So that being said, I also need to talk about two other aspects of this tape that also must be understood. I guarantee you, if you look back far enough, 10, 11 years, like what happened with Trump, you'll find a lot worse commentary about African Americans and Hispanics by Clinton. She, even as late as 2015, has made claims that basically would make people gasp. So why are we so worked up about this? Yes, it's a valid concern, but it's not a concern that disqualifies an executive, because it's banter, not necessarily acting upon it. Banter can always be a mistake made in casual conversation. I believe that this may be, most likely, is the case. I also want to explain another aspect, that this taping was done in California, and in California, Access Hollywood had to have permission, give permission, Billy Bush had to give permission, and Donald Trump, for this taping to even be legally distributed. So, by that default, the distribution of this tape is actually illegal. It is illegal and needs to be destroyed. Now, the reason why I decided to start off with that is this is the most pressing part of the discussion. Now, the second part is not so much directly a Trump thing, but something I've noticed in society at large. And I want to express this as kindly as I can. But it's this idea of racism being something of tied to a group of people who have authority. I'm going to say this right off the bat. Nothing could be further from the truth. You do not need to be of a group of people in authority to be racist. Racism itself has nothing to do with number of people, other than it has to be at least one, racial identity, and power status. Let me point this out. Here's the definition based on the Oxford dictionaries, which is published under the Oxford University Press. Number 1, the top definition: prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. Now, the sub-definition is the belief that all members of each race possess characteristics or abilities specific to that race, especially so as to distinguish it as inferior or superior to another race or races. So, notice what it did not include in either definition. It did not include a power structure association in the definition. It also did not include a number of people who had to believe this, nor did it specify a specific racial identity. So, if we're going by this, racism, a black can be racist, a Latino person can be racist, a white person obviously can be racist, that's what we commonly think of as racism. Asians can be racist. I'm gonna say this right off the bat, anybody can be racist. To think otherwise is frankly stupid. And this actually came because of a MTV video that I watched a while back, and I get really annoyed when I hear this. Now, if we go by the legal definition of racism, we're going to see something interesting. Here is the legal definition of racism: discrimination, intolerance, segregation. It's even more point blank, saying that nope, there's no power structure, there's nothing else that needs to be there other than that individual holding a certain discriminatory view toward a race or other races. Now, I can say this confidently, that if you talk about systemic racism, it's one thing. But just to point blank say it's racist, or these people cannot be racist, is a point blank fallacy. Excuse me, I keep hitting my microphone. In order to understand this is looking at socioeconomic situations of certain groups. And the court system can be considered socioeconomically racist because it takes a lot of resources and money to go through court proceedings. Is it the same thing as point-blank racism not existing for minority groups, or point-blank racism not existing within minority groups toward, like, your white people? No. That means that the system has a racial bias and does not negate that the individual can be racially biased. So, I dare anyone to make that assertion to me that a black person cannot be racist, and watch them act racist toward me. I dare a Hispanic to do the same thing. It's something that, as somebody who loves the English language, I want to make sure you use the language right. You cannot argue racism doesn't exist by ignoring the dictionary. And I'm going to say this as nice as I can. Just because of a term did not originate as racist or some sort of prejudice does not mean it isn't that. Cracker did not originate as a racist term. Neither did the N-word. I dare not say it because I'm going to get a lot of people offended. But that did not actually originate as a racist term. That was actually originated on low life, low quality people, period. And then adopted it here during the slave trade toward the African Americans. So it did not originate as a slave, as a racial slur, but it became that. Almost all our American racial slurs did not originate as racial slurs. You have to look far enough back to actually get the true origin. The true origin of that N-word was actually the Spanish word for black, and slowly developed into this negative word that almost exclusively used for African Americans. Cracker was used to demean poor white folk, but now you get racist black people calling white people, even if they are educated and so forth, cracker, and that is racist. You cannot have it going one way unless the dictionary specifically declares it one way. Sexism is one of those. Actually, no, it's another one that is classification of sexism. Classism never explicitly says, ooh, power struggle here. This side is the focus, and the other side is not. It means, basically, it can go any way, as long as it meets these small criteria. So, you cannot excuse any of that. Have a nice day, and I hope I gave you something to think about.